The tool is an offline tool. It does run in Windows because it's fairly calculation intensive. So there's a couple different flavors. Some people use the tool on lightweight tablets, and they don't run all the calculations offline. They don't try to model out all the measures in the field. And then some people run the full version, and they're generating the reports with all the savings estimates and stuff in the field. To do that, you need something like a Surface Pro, just a professional tablet that's got the full Windows operating system that has a modern chip and that kind of thing. So that's the kind of device that we're targeting. Everything does run offline. When you want to collaborate or push projects to colleagues or archive them to the web, we have this thing called the ePortal that's built into the tool that I can show you. You can do that. But other than that, it's offline. It generates the reports and the savings estimates and everything offline. There's a whole wide range of HVAC systems and equipment, lots of end uses, as I mentioned, and it analyzes a whole range of ECMs, including retro commissioning type measures, and also renewables are included in it. And it's really meant to take you through the whole audit process, start to finish. It does have utility analysis in it, so you can do some truing up. You can see a disaggregation of bills if you have any, and see how they compare to the modeled usages and so forth. You can do all your data collection on site on a tablet, identify, prioritize measures, show people packages of measures, show people payback, and do all your reporting with photos and everything.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to just dive in here. So this is what the interface looks like. There are tabs that lay out the audit process. Generally, you're working basically from left to right here. You have a little bit of basic information about yourself and your company and the project. This type of stuff, any control and optimizer you can set as a default. So you would only enter this information once probably, and save that stuff as a default. And then you get into the information about the building, the owner information, and then the real meat of it starts in here. So an OptiMiser project can be a single building, or you can audit campuses. So in this table, what you're doing is, if you're listing the primary building, or if you had multiple buildings, you could list them all in here. And then you just want to make sure you've got the right zip code. The weather data that the model uses is driven off the zip code. So that's all loaded up. If you have utility bills, you can put utility bills in here. There's a scrape tool where you can paste in bills from any tabular source, and it loads them in automatically. You can put in multiple fuels, multiple electric accounts if you have multiple accounts, and it will analyze and disaggregate those. You can also put in it will it will calculate a unit cost for whatever fuels you're putting bills in for automatically. You can also set those costs with fixed and escalation costs and so forth in the tool directly if you want. And then you start getting into the modeling of describing existing equipment and improvements that you want to propose. So there are a couple ways to do that. For small business cases, you can specify just about the entire audit process using these wizards, and that's a really good way to go, because it sort of helps streamline the process and limits the control set so people don't get off track, and makes it easier to get a complete, well-modeled specification for the important ingredients to define the systems that you're seeing in a building. So, for example, here's a hot water system. you'd put in a name for it. You specify the blue controls are especially important, so you make sure that you get the rated capacity off the boilerplate. It will automatically pull in default values for everything, but anything else that you want to modify in there. And then you can add another one right away if you want. That one gets added into the library and you can add another one. Or you can move on to the measures, and you can apply different measures to it. So there are wizards for the systems. So for hot water, furnaces, HVAC, you can, if it's a small business, you can pretty much define everything you need through using the wizard interfaces. If you have a more detailed audit or larger building, or someone who is really familiar with the terminology and wants to get into specifying more detail, they can go back into this tabbed interface and they can specify as much detail about those systems as they want. So here's CHW plant. You can see the basic specifications, but then you can also adjust occupancy settings, temperature and humidity resets, things like that, all the pumps and chillers and everything. You can get into specifying all that. All of these controls are interrelated, so we use a set of dynamic defaults. So as you change the capacity of a system, then other related specifications will adjust themselves in order to maintain the model in the most realistic state possible, given what you've already told us about the system. So you'll see a bunch of these dynamic defaults. Anything that you haven't touched, the model may adjust as you go along. So if you want to lock something down, you just you click in it, or you type a value in it, and then that becomes a user entry. That's something that you've observed that you know, and OptiMiser won't change that. And then at the bottom here on each one of these tabs where you're specifying a system, you have measures. So you have a whole library of different types of measures. If you want to do system upgrades or pump upgrades, scheduling type measures, you just want to change the scheduling. And then you can, let me select that. You can also go into the measure libraries and you can define new measures yourself in those categories. And when you define a measure, you can put in the costs and incentives for those measures at the same time. So and this is something that we can help you set up as well. When we get the system installed, we can put in costs and incentives for that you want to use to make sure you get off on the right foot. So here are all the systems: hot water, air handling units, single and multi-zone. And then in addition to systems, there are envelope components and upgrades. You don't have to specify building geometry in here. So this is, you specify envelope if you want to make envelope improvements, if you're doing infiltration improvements, or you're specifying some other type of envelope improvement, then you would come in here and do that. Lighting, there's a whole lighting library built in. One of the things that you do when you get set up is you narrow down the lighting library into a list that is something you select from the master list. So it's just the technology that you commonly see, and the measures that you commonly install, and so it becomes easier to manage because there's lots of stuff in the library. But basically, you're setting these filters, and then you can start to come down and fill out these tables. You'll notice as I click in this table, these controls up above, they change. This is, we call these table linked controls, and this is basically how you do data entry and throughout the tool. You can have, you know, nearly unlimited numbers of different types of equipment that you're specifying, but you use the same control. So if I click anywhere on this row, now I'm editing that type of fixture. If I click on the row below, then I'm editing that type of fixture again. And then on the same lines, I'm specifying the improvement. I want to either leave that lighting equipment or I'm going to replace it. And it's keeping track of the savings and the cost as it's going. The other thing, as you're going through, there is you'll see report content for each of the sections, including images and memo controls. So these controls allow you to build up libraries of text content, narrative content. So if you're, you know, writing similar types of recommendations or similar types of notes on building conditions, you can start to save those as, you know, as your own default canned texts. So you can have as many of those as you want, and then you just pull them out and you say, I want to use this one, and it becomes, you know, it fills in that control. The photos, we have a built-in photo capture app in here, so if you're on a tablet, you can click the photo button anytime or any of these image controls, and you can snap a photo for the report. There are some water measures in here as well. So you can, both for energy and water saving, you can put in flush fixtures and flow fixtures and that kind of thing. There's lots of appliance measures in here. So if you do audit a facility that is a dedicated, you know, food service type of place, or it has any kind of food prep area, there's tons of measures in here. You can give people a really detailed audit really quickly and show them some savings from appliance replacement. There's also renewables. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's just calculated PV needs. But so this is the PV section. Really quick, you can just specify a PV array, or you can do solar thermal as well. You can also get into more detailed types of panel model selection. It does array layout, so it's quite a detailed PV calculator. And then you can also, if there's a type of measure that is not in there, there's this kind of catch-all custom measure definition area where you can put in whatever you want, and you can, if you know, you provide the savings estimate. So if it's some kind of piece of equipment that we don't have engineering for or something, you can come in here and say, yeah, it's this super tub water saving device, and it saves, you know, this many kilowatt hours or whatever. So you can put that in there. Yeah, go ahead.
We can add custom measures in, you're saying?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So it gives you if you have bills entered, it gives you a breakdown of the bills, the weather normalized bills, so you can do some calibration in here, and it gives you the breakdown of electricity and the fuel usage if you've got those bills entered. And then in the improvements, basically there's two steps. It puts all your in this file. I've already added a bunch of these to the package, but if this was a raw file and I'd just gone through and I defined a bunch of measures, you'd see them all up top, and those are the unadded measures. So it calculates all the savings, and then as you add them, it recalculates the potential impact on the package of each measure. So you add, you're gonna do the lighting, so you add the lighting, and then it recalculates what the potential savings of the HVAC upgrades are. Now that it knows you're going to do the lighting, because you've just probably reduced the cooling load by switching to LEDs. So it's taking into account those interactive effects and recalculating the the potential savings each time you add something to the measure. It takes a few seconds to calculate. So if it's taking too long in the field, you can also turn it off. So you just calculate it once. But and that's basically it. So you can actually, some people do this with clients, like they sit there with the tool at the table, and they'll show people, here's some potential measures. Here's, they'll add them to the package, remove them, whatever, and show them different options. You can also show them different options in the report, which is nice. So, and here's some additional, this report content. You can edit all this in the report generator that I'll show you as well. Let me pop that open. It's just going to recalculate so that it's got the latest of everything. So the report, the default report is a direct to PDF report. It's a library of maybe 40 different page types, something like that. And you can select, so you can edit the narrative content and add images and edit images in the report. You can also select from the pages, so you can have a very short report or a longer report, and you can save those report selections. So you have different layers of defaults to customize things. So for example, if I go to the summary, it's an executive summary of the measures. If I click in on the executive summary, you'll see this little memo control here. I can actually edit that directly right here. And the cool thing about this is you can also use variables from OptiMiser. So you can see here that it's saying that annual energy cost savings of $1,327. So that's this little bracketed text right here, RPT total savings dollars. So yeah, we've got a little glossary that you can use, and you can actually build up blocks of text that use dynamic variables from inside OptiMiser. So if you take your time and you do it, you actually don't have to change very much in these in the recommendations.
That's good. Hey Ryan, can we add our logo to the report?
Oh sure, yeah. This logo slot is actually where your logo would go. If this was your your installation, you would put your logo in there. There's also logo slot on the cover page. So you can have it in the header. The footers are also editable. You can put information about your company and website and information stuff in the footer as well. So it goes through energy use. It goes through your measures. It also, if you don't like the measures to be reported in this kind of way, you can also do them, page by page. Have a whole page dedicated to the measures. It goes through some details specifically with the lighting and the HVAC. It's got a bunch of detailed types of equipment information at the end if you want to include, if it's a long audit and sometimes people are really interested in just a summary of their existing equipment, because a lot of building managers don't even know what they have. So you can give them, a rundown of everything that you've looked at. And then there's lots of places for photos as well. So you can have a really colorful and rich type of report.
So Ryan, what's the average number of pages you think would be for one of these audit reports?
Well, it really varies because we're doing so many different types. If it's a small business in somewhere where they don't have any, there's no municipal ordinance mandating, governing the audit, then they're typically really short. They're probably like maybe 5-10 pages. that's with a cover page and a glossary. So there's not a whole lot of content because a lot of people are they're doing lighting and some really they're picking some maybe some HVAC upgrades that they know are going to be really strong in terms of the payback. And so they've got a limited set of measures, and that's all that they want to recommend to people. And they're not doing a lot of kind of survey, inventory type of stuff. So that's a really quick audit, and it's a short report. There are also people who are doing audits in New York, local I-87 audits they have to be really detailed, and they have just reams of of information on existing equipment. And so in those cases, they're using those appendices to list everything, every piece of equipment that's in the building. So sometimes they can get really long, over 20 pages.
Right.
Yeah. So it really varies. And we're doing all different types of end users, including multifamily. So the reports look really different. We also do a lot of report customization for people. So if there's a level of configuration that you can't do in the tool by yourself, we're happy to do that. We've got a lot of custom reports out there. It's something we do routinely. And basically we do that on a cost basis. So we just, we do a mock-up with you, and then we'll give you an estimate on what it would take, and then we deliver that through the update system. So it just shows up in your installation, and it's ready to go for you.
So you have an update process where we don't have to go download a new version of the tool or deploy it to different workstations and surfaces?
Right,
okay.
Yeah. So you go in here and it comes down through our internal update system, and it would, if you had any custom updates that we handled, it would just come down through that same system and show up for your users.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Is it digital download or from the cloud? We don't have to touch the server. Okay, that's good.
Yes. Yeah. We maintain our own cloud architecture. So this is the other part of that besides the update system is the project management system. And it's really a document handling system. We have a separate system that we license that's a full-featured CRM program management tool called Nexus. That's separate. This system that's built into OptiMiser is, if you had a bunch of jobs here, you would see all your jobs and their statuses and a little bit of information about them. And you can add messages for people. You can reassign them to your colleagues. You can change the phases of them. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Is your screen changing? I don't know if we're frozen. We hadn't seen it change since
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's better. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's not much to see in here in my demo version, but basically it's one management screen that allows you to send. So here's the project that we were just working on. You can submit it. You can forward it to a colleague. You can archive it to our ePortal. You can set up a phase structure. So if you have 2 or 3 phases the projects go through, you can actually push them through those phases, and then it'll say what phase they're in. So you can keep track of that here. You can see all your archive jobs. So it's actually quite full featured. When you get a lot of projects in there, it's pretty nice.
Do you have like a check-in, check-out kind of setup? So
exactly. Yep. So you're only working on it at one place at a time, and then there's a method. If you assign people as managers, they can, if someone, I don't know, walks out of the office one day and doesn't come back, or they they lose their computer or something, you can grab projects back for them, but other than that, they have to release. It's sort of like SVN or GitHub or something. If you're managing code somewhere, you have to get a lock on something while you're working on it.
That's good. So as far as data transfer, data exchange, let's say we wanted to send some information about a job to OptiMiser, say the address and the name of the business we're going to be assessing. We want to send over Ryan's Food Pantry, and we want to go ahead and audit that place. Could we send that, or is that every job in OptiMiser we have to manually enter the company name, address, and that information?
So we do have an API that's a fairly straightforward API. It sort of depends, whether or not it would be worth it for you, and it would kind of depend on the volume and, what system it was coming from. The API is there's no additional cost to it. You can send information to it. It's a simple URL structure.
Okay.
And those projects would show up, so we could definitely work with you on that. We have people that integrate with Salesforce. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's a number of people that are using CRM systems that are preloading files to OptiMiser.
If it's if the API goes both ways, can we get and post, or is it just
you can?
post?
Yep. Nope. You can get everything. So in terms of data extraction on the other end, you can pull out any data point that you want, or you can get the entire record of the audit in a giant XML blob. You can also get all the documents that are attached. So you can grab all of the reports that you generate for a project as PDFs, and you can grab, if there's an archive of photos that were attached to the project, you can grab that separately as well. So that can all be done via the API, and we have a lot of experience helping people use that, so we'd be happy to help you navigate that. But we also have a lot of people who are just using the OptiMiser interface. They are kind of keeping the projects there, and when they want, they'll pull down a project and kind of managing that separately or manually, if you will.